Staley, owner of Great Basin Bicycles in Reno, Nevada. What we're going to work on today is show you how to do a really quick brake bleed on Avid brakes. We're running into a dilemma where the Avid brake levers are trapping air inside the lever. So I'm going to show you a really quick and easy way to fix it without having to bleed your entire brake. So first, as you can see on my counter, I have brake fluid, and I also have a little medical syringe, which is right here, and a couple medical stints. So here's a syringe, and here are the stints. The nice thing about the stints is they're long enough, and they all come in different sizes, but they're narrow enough that they will fit inside the brake line so that we can get the air out of the brake line. So your stint simply threads into your syringe, and then your syringe you can just pull a little bit of hydraulic fluid into, and you're ready to go. So I now have the brake lever pulled off, and in my hands I'm going to pull the little plastic cap here. We're going to do two things. One, we're going to shorten this line so that we don't have a lot of extra line there. I'll show you a quick way to do that. And then secondly, we're going to take the air out of the lever. Both operations are going to use the stint. Now we're simply going to approximate our length of our cable. We're going to have to cut about this much of the cable off. So I just have a nice pair of wire cutters. The threaded piece stays down. The olive compression piece stays down. I also have these cool little dental tools from a couple different dentist friends of the shop. So I'll stick this inside the housing, open it up just a little bit, take your olive, slip it on. Now in this case, since we're working with Avid, this little guy will actually thread into the housing. If not, we need to use the press to press the barb into the housing. But in this case, the reason we are opening it up with the little dental tool, sharpened spoke works really well also. Wallow it around a little bit. Now one of the dilemmas is when we did that, we just pushed some of the fluid out of the line. So now when we put it back together, we're going to have a bubble and our brakes aren't going to work. So again, I'm going to use my little stint, which fits perfectly inside this little hose. Push the stint into the line. I'm slowly pushing fluid into the line as I'm pulling the stint out of the line, replacing all of the air with hydraulic fluid. There's a little surface tension of the hydraulic fluid, so I've got it sort of bowing up on the top, bubbling up on the top. Now, this fun little, not really barb fitting, but that's what we're going to call it, will thread right in with the Avid tool. Okay, so that's in tight, and again, we have the threaded compression piece, the brake olive, and the Torx head barb in there. Now I'm going to put a little bit of fluid on the top just to make sure that there are no bubbles there, and you can literally see it to make sure that there aren't. Lastly, I'm going to take my brake lever, holding it up. Remember, bubbles go uphill, very important thing. I'm going to stick that little syringe inside the lever, and I'm going to backfill the lever up into the threads. So now, I don't know if you can see this on the video, but I've got fluid filled in all the way up to here on the lever. Now I'm going to marry the two together, drop the little fitting in there, the little olive, thread this down, grab it with my rag. So again, I don't get hydraulic fluid everywhere. 8mm wrench. Tighten that little puppy down, wipe off the extra fluid. You can use a little alcohol on this if you want to, which also helps keep clean the hydraulic fluid off. And voila, I can grab this lever from here, and we have complete brakes without having to bleed the system. Now, the other thing that Avids are known to do is they trap air right in here on the lever. So when you're going downhill, hitting a lot of bumps, that little bubble will atomize into a bunch of little bubbles and get pushed into the brake line. When that happens, you have no brakes. Then you let the bike sit, all those bubbles slowly work their way back into the lever, when it's up here on the bike and you have brakes and you're trying to figure out what's going on. So what we have to do is get the air bubbles out of this. Right now there aren't any because of how I just did it, but if you have a new bike or coming right out of the factory, I've seen it happen a lot of times, that air bubble will be stuck. So again, it's a really, really simple fix. Grab your Torx head. We're going to pull this little fitting off. Remember, bubbles go uphill, so I'm just going to tap the lever, kind of move it around to make sure that we get all the bubbles right up into the top of this port. I'm going to grab my fun little syringe and stint, going to stick it all the way inside that lever, and I'm going to backfill it. Grab my little rag again, and I'm barely, and I mean barely, going to cycle the lever. As I cycle the lever, it's going to be pushing the fluid in and out, and it's going to change places with any air bubbles that are in there. And if I need to do it again, then I'm going to take my little stint and I'm going to put it on here. If you want to be super thorough, grab your finger over the top, move this around, make sure those bubbles all get to the top. Again, bubbles go uphill, pop this off, give it just a little cycle, move it around, make sure that there are no bubbles, and I actually just got one out of there. Okay, now I'm going to backfill this all the way to the top of the threads. When I put my little Torx head nut back in here, it's going to push the extra fluid out of the system, and it might even just barely pressurize the system, just a little tiny bit, but not enough to make a difference. Tighten that in, and again, voila, I have brakes. So that's the simple fix on how to break a busted line, how to shorten a line, or how to get that air bubble out of the lever without having to bleed your entire brake system. Then we just screw it right back into place, and we're done. Hope that helps. Have fun.